and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. We are now on episode number 20. I would have never imagined we'd have made it this far. But thank you all for joining us this fine Wednesday afternoon. Once again, want to let you know that the phone lines will be open for a little bit during this show. You can call us at 956-622-5977. And before we say hi to our co-host Jacob, we do want to remind you that be sure to check out our friends from the Beautiful Game Network. Follow them on Twitter at the BGN FM. Check out the website at bgn.fm. While you're there, check out other USL podcasts like us, including Rising as One, Play the Kids, and there are actually a few new podcasts that have joined the network. So be sure to check them out. Also, check out our sponsor, or the BGN sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, who are the official scarf supplier of the MLS, USL, and NWCA. I almost lost my train of thought there for a minute. Be sure to also check out our friends at dynamotheory.com. Carson did release his new article, The Bull and Its Horns. Also, be sure to also check out our website, downintheRGV.com, where we'll be actually be uploading articles written by Jacob himself, which will probably go live in the next couple of days. So, having said all of this, Jacob, man, how are you, man?
Doing well, doing fine. Down here in the RGV, it's been a pretty good day so far, yeah.
And that's good. That's good to hear, man. How was your experience on Saturday, doing the broadcast live from the stadium?
Man, the broadcast live from the stadium on Saturday, that was interesting to say the least. Obviously, of course, it did take a long time for us to get set up and things like that, but yeah, it also sometimes, it was really tough to hear because the sound guy was absolutely just on something, in my opinion, because he ended up raising the volume super loud and we could barely hear each other, and sometimes I got lost of focus because of that. And so, yeah, it was really interesting, of course.
Yeah, I mean, he's just trying to do their job. So, but it kind of didn't help because these microphones are actually very, very sensitive. However, you know what the interesting part though is that so I was listening to the audio from the actual stream. What was it, like 2 days ago? And actually, like, even though like they're live, it sounded so loud, the microphones were able to pick up our voices just fine. It didn't really like take over our voices. So it proved to be a very decent recording for the most part. So other than that, I really, really, really enjoyed it. Just like we said that night, it's just growing pains that we have to get used to. In order for next time we want to do something like that, we realize that the bandwidth isn't great in that location, so we will probably end up having to try an audio-only stream if we were to do something in the future live from HEB Park. So that is going to be something that is in the works, guys. So be sure to check that out whenever it does happen. And in order to continue, let's go ahead. I do want to mention to everybody that is here right now, watching us live on YouTube, we are going to have Nico Corti, RGVFC goalkeeper. He is going to be live on the show in a couple of minutes. So be sure to stick around, guys, and that way you'll be able to listen to what he wants to talk to us about, what we ask him. So it'll be an interesting show today. So let me know, guys. Let me know, guys, if the stream is working well on your end. It seems to be working fine on my end, I believe. So having said this, let's go ahead and jump straight into RGV versus San Antonio, the South Texas Derby. And for me, at least for me, it was a very hard-fought battle by RGV. RGV pretty much showed up and played the game how they were supposed to. They just were had to play against a really, really, really big obstacle, which was Diego Restrepo, San Antonio FC's goalkeeper. He was unpassable that Saturday.
Oh yeah, he was unpassable for sure. But besides that fact that sometimes, even RGVFC couldn't really get the ball into the final third, just like Todd Wharton said in the press conference after. Sometimes, in that final third, they didn't get that pass that they needed to. Maybe an extra pass wasn't necessary in that moment because of the fact that when I did look at the stats after the game, they only had 8 shots on goal. So obviously they can just get a bit more, or not a bit more, but just, a little bit more shots on goal. It'll be really nice to actually see because 8 shots on goal, sure, each shot was challenged by Restrepo, but if they could have just gotten, a couple more shots, maybe one of them could have actually gone into the back of the net.
Yeah, I would have to say that at least for me, I think the offense was fine in the first half, and we kind of mentioned it during during halftime when we were recording that video. Um, the offense were fine. They were finding opportunities on goal, especially early in the first half. Seems like in the second half, San Antonio might have tweaked some things and they had more possession of the ball. At times, they looked a little bit dangerous, especially I believe that player is, let me get you the name of that player, Gordon. Gordon really looked quick on his feet. He proved to be a danger, especially through the middle. Escalante through the middle as well. Gordon actually, I'm switching it. So Gordon through the out on the wing looked a little bit dangerous. And then you had Jose Escalante, who would play who was technically a winger, but for many chances or many different lapses of the game, he had most of his attack through the middle. And he proved to be a bother for both Nicolas Perea and for Todd Wharton. The only thing, obviously, with Escalante is that he tended to be, when he would dribble, he tended to look more for the foul rather than looking for a good opportunity to pass the ball over to his attacker, which was either Alex Bruce or Sonny Guadarrama. So I think it's kind of like, so I was watching the the San Antonio Roundtable, which is a podcast that our friend Harry is on for San Antonio. And one of the things they mentioned was that it looks like Jose Escalante had some internal pressure or personal pressure to prove to the SA or to the RGVFC fans, that they made a mistake in letting him go. And so they felt that a lot of times he made decisions that normally he would not make. And so I don't know what you think about that point of view, but that was one of the things that caught my ear when I was listening to them this morning.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting take on that side because of the fact that, and I also did notice that Escalante was looking for the fouls a lot of the times, especially when he went to the box, because of the fact that even up from the booth, we saw Jose Escalante a couple of times raise up his hands when he thought, that he might have gotten fouled or something like that. And so it was really interesting to see that. And of course, yes, San Antonio FC, they did look dangerous a couple of times. And that also goes back to, in my opinion, not mental lapses from RGV, but just that little mental game that we had talked about before, that sometimes when they don't have possession, they get trapped a bit in their own area, and so they don't know what to do. And I think that's what happened when, especially in the start of the second half, San Antonio FC was able to climb that gap and get a bit more possession in and test Nico Corti.
Yeah. And honestly, like San Antonio had very few chances. I believe they only had like 3 shots on goal, and all of them were pretty much saved by Nico Corti. He looked, once again, looked really confident back there. And once again, I'll let y'all know, whoever's watching the stream right now, he is going to be on live on the show in a couple of minutes, around 7:30 around there. So be sure, guys, like this video, share it with your friends, let people know to come and listen. It'd be interesting to see, some different points of view from Nico Corti, what he sees out there on the pitch, maybe things that we as fans outside don't really see, or how he got up to this level, listen to his background. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the starting 11 for RGVFC. So, like we mentioned, the goalkeeper was Nico Corti. It looked really well. Got another clean sheet, especially at home. I believe it's it's the third clean sheet.
Yes, the third clean sheet for sure from Nico Corti. Third straight clean sheet at home, to be exact. Obviously, you didn't get a clean sheet on the road versus Fresno.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then on the defense, some minor changes. We had Manny Padilla back out in the right back position, then Connor Donovan, then Omar Ontiveros back in the starting 11, the RGV native. And Kyle Adams continues to be out in the left back. And he's proven to be a decent for the most part of this game. One of the things that we mentioned in the pregame, Jacob, I know you probably remember, is that we were kind of iffy on Connor Donovan, especially after what we saw against Fresno. Those mental mistakes that he's had, especially away. It was up to a point that we were saying, like, he makes another mistake, he's got to have to be benched. But thankfully, Donovan was able to prove us wrong. He looked really, really, really legit back there.
Yeah, he finally looked legit. He finally looked like he belonged. And I think it just took, confidence. I think from, those mental mistakes that has happened on the road, I think he only makes those on the road because he's scared. He's not really used to playing that, I guess, that much on the road. And so when he came home, he was much more confident. And I think, obviously, training, maybe, the coach or the trainer said, you have a problem when you get into the box, so let's work on that for a day. And maybe that's what, he worked on continuously going towards this game. And so, yeah, Connor Donovan finally looked really well and really good, and I liked what I saw from him. Hopefully he can repeat that going forward against Kansas City.
Yeah, and it was to a point where we realized, like, derbies tend to be physical. And Connor Donovan was not afraid to be physical, to be honest. Even to a point where he pretty much tackled his own coach, Gerson Echeverry. I think it was late in the second half. And I thought it was kind of hilarious. Because it was like he was so focused in making sure that Escalante did not run away with the ball and head towards the goal, where like he didn't care who he pretty much knocked over and who was in his way. But thankfully, that he was able to get that ball, out of bounds, out of danger.
Yeah, for sure. Luckily, he was able to do that and also not hurt Coach Gerson Echeverry, considering the fact that it was close from us maybe seeing a headline saying Gerson Echeverry out for 6 weeks with a torn meniscus or something like that.
Yeah, no, that would have been pretty bad, and I'm sure like Connor Donovan would feel guilty. But thankfully, it's just something that wasn't major, and we can pretty much laugh our way out of it. And I'm sure Coach Echeverry probably thinks the same. You should have asked him though. Can't believe we forgot during the post-game conferences.
Yeah, exactly. But I think in a way we made it up with that meme that I believe Cesar made. So yeah, I think that's what happened.
Okay, so just a little background on that. So we were all four of us from down in the valley were in the post-game conferences, and Cesar was in charge of taking photography while we were there. And one of the pictures that he took, it was it was Gerson Echeverry caught him at the perfect moment where he was making pretty much that face that Obama made for that not bad meme. I took the picture and made it into pretty much a new version of that not bad meme. And so Jerson saw it and he pretty much loved it. So I just thought it was another funny thing. So continuing on the midfield, we also saw a little bit of some changes in the midfield. You had Chuy Enriquez playing in the left wing, Nicolas Perea returning. Playing in the center along with Todd Warden, the captain, who, correct me if I'm wrong, has not missed a single minute so far this season. And then out in the right wing or right mid, we saw Salivar return. And one of the things I mentioned to you that in comparison with Chuy Enriquez, Salivar tends to play much lower, more as a right mid than a right wing. And so the formation wise, it looked very lopsided with Enriquez going up and going up against defenders and trying to create attacking plays. Whereas Saliva, there were a couple of times where they were trying to look for him up on top of the field, and he was pretty much in the midfield, very, very, very down. And so a lot of the times, a lot of attacking opportunities were missed because RGB tends to be used to having two wingers up top. And with Saliva being pushed back, I'm not sure if it was by design or the player or that the San Antonio FC defense, forced him to be so far down. But it pretty much hurt the RGVFC.
Yeah, I agree with you on that because of the fact that, like you said, they were pushed back, and at the same time, when you have two players like that are being pushed back, you don't have that help that you would normally have with two wingers on the outside, which would give maybe Todd Wharton or someone even on the forward side to look around, see a pass from that outside to try to get the ball inside or back inside to where you could get a good header on the ball or something like that. So it didn't help. I hope obviously it'll be kind of changed for next game. Hopefully they're able to push up forward, but at the same time I understand that Zadivar likes what he's doing in a way. He likes to come in, but stay back. But at the same time, we need him to push forward a bit.
And it doesn't help that for the most part, Saliva has been playing in the center for most of the games that he's played, whether it's an attacking midfield through the center or a center defensive midfield helping out Todd Warden. And then this time he was pushed out to the wing, which is interesting to see because in the bench you had Zach Wright. You also have John Montaño, who I'm not really sure has been pretty much consistent enough to warrant starting 11. Because if we see the substitutes that RGB had for this game, come on, you had here you are. You had Matt Sanchez, Robert Castellanos, Kai Green, Jorginho James, Bryce Marion, who made his debut actually in this game, and I believe he plays out in the wing. So Bryce Marion is, if I'm not mistaken, he's a Dynamo Academy product. He played last year with the Brazos Valley Cavalry, and it appears that Gerson Echeverry believes that it's his time to pretty much shine with RGVFC. You also had Jordan Jones and Zach Wright, like I said, who came in. So interesting to see that John Montaño has pretty much been relegated out to the stands. Now, is it proving me right? What Sean and I said in the beginning of the season in the preseason game against San Antonio, where Montaño is not ready. whether it's fitness-wise or he just does not have the talent. We don't know. Gerson Echeverry is the person who sees him every day in practice. But what we saw in that preseason match is that he wasn't match ready. And the fact that it's been, we're, nine? What is it, 9 matches in, or a little bit less, in the season, and he still has not even made it to the bench consistently. I guess that goes to show you that they probably aren't really expecting much from him. Now up to a point where they're bringing up a young star from the academy in order to fulfill that role.
Of course, and even at this time of the season, and I'd heard this from a guy at the game this past Saturday, that at this point of the season, you need depth. And so at the same time, if one guy's not ready, just replace him with another. And so, like you said, if they're expecting someone that's really good to come out from, this Toros Academy in a way, then it can actually happen. I just believe that obviously that guy, he just needs to get ready. He just needs to get fitness ready, and we can have ourselves another star that can actually kind of help with this depth moving forward at least.
Yeah. And then to finish off the starting 11 before we go on break, because we'll have Nico Corti should be coming on any minute now. We did have Pablo Aguilar return into to the center attacking midfield position as pretty much a distributor, and Aldo Quintanilla. And Aldo Quintanilla, this game, you saw that hustle that we always see out of him. Trying to look for that space, trying to look for that attacking opportunity to shoot at the goal. Between him and Enriquez had pretty much made good chances early in the game that pressured Restrepo to make some really good saves. Sadly, when you're going up against a player, like we said before, we're going up against a player who is on his game like Restrepo. It's pretty hard to get past him. And we talked about it during that match. We said, like, hey, well, Restrepo being this good, it's a surprise that no MLS team has been pretty much has come for him and signed him. And so, like Harry, who our San Antonio friend, has said that the reason that MLS clubs have not signed him is due to the fact that he is not only is he short, but he's very stocky. And so a lot of coaches believe that just because of that combination, he's not flexible, he's not athletic enough to be a first division goalkeeper. And frankly, from what we've seen, not only what we have seen this year so far, but last year, where he was fighting for the Golden Glove and was really close to earning the Golden Glove in the USL for the 2017 season, his ability to jump, his positioning ability makes up for that lack of height. And so it's time to pretty much get out of the box, think outside of that box of that stereotypical goalkeeper body, like they say. And at the end, the whole point is to make sure the ball doesn't go into the net. And Diego Restrepo for San Antonio has done that and then some.
Yes, for sure. I mean, he has done some as well. And of course, we talk about him not being able to go into the MLS. Well, sure, he's small and he's obviously just been really good with San Antonio, and obviously San Antonio wouldn't really want to let him leave.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it looks like Nico's on.
All right, that's fine.
Hello, welcome to Down in the Valley. Nico? Can you listen? Can you hear us? All right, excellent. All right, welcome to Down in the Valley, Nico. How you been, man? Can you hear me now? God, I feel like that Verizon commercial. Can you hear me? All right, excellent. So how have you been, man? Yeah, no problem, man. I mean, you've been doing so good so far. I mean, we were talking about it just a couple of minutes ago. How it's you managed to get three clean sheets. Hold on, let me get the problem. Hello. Yeah. All right. There we go. Yeah, like I was telling, we were discussing a couple of minutes ago that you've managed to earn three clean sheets so far this season, and all of them at home. And feel like you've made such a huge improvement, even so far. Hmm. Yeah. So what? So you mentioned the fact that we haven't been getting the results away. What do you think has been the problem for RGB when it comes to playing in the away games?
make big plays.
Yeah, it's. I think also Todd Warden mentioned as well
Yeah,
the mentality does those mental relapses that and then
yeah,
the fact that you're going to be fair not all USL fields are up to par to HEB Park. I mean, you're
sure.
yeah, you're playing in whatchamacallit, for the most part in baseball fields, in in cold conditions where the pitch is going to be out of whack. So,
Hmm.
like it was in Colorado. So I think for the most part, like we've seen the offense, step up, and just those mental lapses, in the defensive position have proved, you can say, fatal for us. So in
Yeah,
this season.
definitely. I mean, you talked about the fields and the conditions. And, well, that's true that we're incredibly lucky to have the facilities that we do at HEB. I think they're arguably the best field stadium in the USL. But I don't think that the facilities or the quality of the fields are a valid excuse for us. I think both teams are playing on them at the end of the day, so it's not an unfair advantage for anyone to be playing on any kind of surface. I think, for example, in Colorado, yeah, the field wasn't great, and the conditions are cool, and it's high altitude and it's windy. But at the end of the day, I make a mistake on the free kick, and Connor gives it the PK. Those are two plays that are very fixable, and we take care of those. We gave ourselves a chance to win on the road because we could have easily won that game. So you can look at the conditions and all that kind of thing, but I think, like you said, there's little mental lapses that I think that we've been doing better on, but obviously we have to keep going with it because that's what's going to make the difference for us is can we be locked in and 100% over the course of 9 months?
Yeah. So what is it that you're able to tell us? How have the team in general been working on minimizing these mental mistakes?
Sorry, I just lost you for a second.
I asked, for example, from what you can tell us, how has the team been working on, these mental mistakes? Are there some specific exercises that Jerson and Chivery has y'all do to maintain concentration, or how?
I don't know if there's, so much of specific exercises to do to improve that concentration. I think it's something that you have to talk about and be aware of. I think film is incredibly important for that. Going back and watching the games, important plays, and kind of watching them on your own, I think is important. So you can watch yourself and kind of get those mental reps of what you could have done better, what you did well, what to take away from that. And then we do a lot of film together as a team. So we talk about, we discuss plays, how we can help each other, how we can get better. And I think getting those extra mental reps are going to help you, be able to maintain that concentration and make the right decision the next time around. And so I think I would say film is a key factor in growing in that aspect.
Yeah, that's really good that you guys are continuously review that footage. Yeah. It's something really important. So let's go ahead and put on pause this season for us. So I feel like one of the things I wanted to ask you. So I would like for our fans to get to know you a little bit better. Your background. It does mention, like, from many articles that we've read, that you grew up in Belgium and France. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was born in Belgium and lived there very briefly. Actually, I don't remember it. I was very young, and then spent most of my childhood in France up until about the age of 12, I think. And then I moved to with my family for my dad's work. We moved to the United States. We moved to California, and I've been in California ever since. And then recently relocated to Texas, which I've been enjoying so far.
That's good to hear. So, at what age did you decide to play soccer, or more specifically, at what age and what influenced you to decide, hey, you know what, I want to be a goalkeeper? Because honestly, it's not really a position that a lot of kids just wake up and decide, oh, I want to be the goalkeeper.
It's a question I get a lot, and I actually have a very easy answer for you. Is that I've been playing soccer ever since I can remember. I think I started when I was 3, and I've been a goalie since then. Since day one, I've never been a field player. I think part of that, realistically, was that my dad was a goalkeeper and his dad was a goalkeeper. So I guess I'm a third-generation goalkeeper. And, I've always been drawn to the position, I guess. And that's probably just because I started so early and felt like I was good at it. And I've just enjoyed it, and I still do, which is pretty cool. I think it's a difficult position mentally more than anything, but very rewarding at the same time. So, I started from the get-go. I had some pictures of when I was really, really little, living in Paris with some Nike gloves on during the 1998 World Cup in France. They had like a little Nike town set up down there, and I was playing goalie even then.
Yeah, and it's one of the things, how they say, like, with goalkeepers, it's the only position pretty much where your mistakes are counted as far in the scoreboard. Yeah. So it is kind of challenging mentally. You mentioned your parents, your dad and your grandfather were both goalkeepers. Yeah. Did they play professional as well, or were they?
No. My grandfather, I actually don't know. How long he did it or how it wasn't, I don't think at a very high level, but he, would still play recreationally when he was an adult and all that kind of stuff. So he loved it. He just, I don't know at what level he played. And then my father grew up in France, and he was kind of in the academy setups of his local professional clubs, and then I think when it came time when it was make or break time, he had a pretty bad back injury that he had doing track and field, I think, actually. And he hurt his back pretty bad, and that was kind of it for him. But again, same thing. He's, still loves playing in his in adult leagues, that kind of stuff.
So when you were growing up, and you were trying to get your feet wet with soccer, was there a particular player, professional player, that was your role model or your inspiration?
That's a great question. When I was growing up, the goalkeeper for France was Fabien Barthez, who's like the Manchester United France legend, bald, kind of crazy. And
everybody kiss his head.
Yeah, exactly. Kiss the head. He was the guy that we all looked up to when we were growing up. That I wanted to shave my hair so I could look like him, that type of thing. But my mom wouldn't let me. But looking back now, I think that's not exactly the role model I have now from a technical standpoint. I think there are other goalies that are much more technically sound than he is that you would want to kind of model yourself off of. But at the time when you're a kid, you're not really thinking about that kind of stuff. You're just looking at this kind of crazy guy that somehow is incredibly effective, even though he's not as traditional as other goalkeepers out there.
Yeah, definitely. So fast forward a little bit. In college, so you played for Stanford, if I'm not mistaken. You Stanford, the program won 3 national championships, and you participated directly in your senior year when you won the 3rd one. Describe us a little bit how that year went, how it was for you.
So that last year obviously was my 5th year. I was a redshirt senior, and it's kind of hard to talk about that year in isolation, because the reason it meant so much to me was that I put so much time into the program, and the program meant so much to me. Having been there for 4 years, and I hadn't gotten the reward of much playing time up to that point, but I felt like I contributed in a lot of other ways, day in, day out, and to finally have that opportunity to contribute on the field, in the fall, it meant a lot to me. And so I was, I attacked every game like it was life and death, to be honest with you. And, it was, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be successful. And we had a lot of pressure, and that was the same mentality for everyone, which is why I think we were so successful again, is there was no complacency, because we were all desperate, like absolutely desperate to win it all again. And so we kind of went game by game. And once we got to playoff time, it was kind of like, we're just living day to day and staying in the moment, and we ended up doing really well. And it's kind of crazy to look back on, how successful the season was, because you kind of don't realize it as you're doing it. It's one of those weird feelings where, especially because in the college season it happens so fast, you don't really have time to sit back and admire your work. You kind of have to just keep going. And so now looking back, we definitely are very proud of what we were able to achieve.
Yeah, and a lot of times, just winning one championship is difficult enough, but 3 in a row, that is an admirable feat for any soccer program in the college level. So you went through college, you graduated, and so now all of a sudden you're called to be a professional. What was your first reaction when they told you that you were going to play for RGVFC?
I was excited. I was extremely excited. I was eager to, get down there and get to work. My route to RGV was, I think, a little different than most people's coming out of college, because I signed before the draft. And I kind of got that opportunity based on the Dynamo RGV goalkeeper combine that happened in December after the college season. And I just really, Jerson was there at the combine, and then the first team goalkeeper staff was also there, and I got along really well with them. I really, I think we worked really well together, and they saw something in me that I guess they gave me the opportunity to come down to RGV, and they gave me the opportunity to come to the Dynamo preseason. And I've been able to train with the Dynamo first team multiple times since the season started as well, which has been great. And so to get that opportunity, I'll always be grateful, and the way I look at it really is to just try to repay those, handful of people that saw something in me. I feel a lot of loyalty towards those people and to the organization, and I really want to kind of prove them right, and be a success story.
Yeah, and it was in the beginning of the season, it was kind of like, for example, it was constant rotations between you and Matt Sanchez. Trying to see who would win that starting goalkeeper spot, and then now it seems that you have held on to that position. You're not ready to let that go.
Well, I think that's there's a lot of layers to an answer to that question, and one is that I don't think anyone's won or solidified that starting spot. I think it's a long season. I think as soon as you start thinking that you've accomplished anything is when you put yourself into trouble. You put yourself in a position where you can lose that spot, because Matt's a fantastic goalie. We train together all the time, and it's a great battle, and we push each other, and we have a great working relationship, as well as a good friendship, which I think is super important when you're competing with someone like that. I've had the pleasure of having a lot of good relationships like that with other goalies that I've competed with. So even though I've started the last handful of games or whatever, you never know who's starting the next game. You can't take that for granted. So you have to attack every day to kind of earn that. Again, that's kind of the mentality, is you have to earn it every single practice, so that you never take your foot off the pedal.
So being a pro for a couple of weeks already, a couple of months, I guess you could say, what do you think? What are the major differences that you yourself have experienced between collegiate soccer and professional?
I think the biggest thing I've noticed is the schedule. I think that's something that I know, and at least I know my college coach, Coach Gunn, really wants to change, is the condensed schedule in the fall in college, right? Where you're playing 2 games a week, playing 23 games in a matter of a couple months. And in that situation, schedule-wise, you can't train that much throughout the week in preparation, because at least 2 or 3 days of the week are recuperation from those games that are high intensity because of the subs and all that kind of stuff. So the biggest difference I've seen is you're playing one game a week for the most part, and every once in a while there's a midweek game that changes it a little bit, but you're able to really push throughout the week and work on your craft day in, day out, and not worry so much about just recovery and game prep like you have to in college. So I think that's been one of the biggest differences is I've been able to, you can kind of log more hours throughout the week and really develop at a higher rate, I would say, than I've been able to in the past.
Yeah, definitely. So now, since you're a pro, your focus is on the training. Whereas when you're in college, you had to do not only training, for the soccer, but you've also had to go to classes, do your homework, study for tests.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it as well. I think at least in my experience at Stanford, I'd say the amount of hours of soccer that we put in was fairly similar as now, as I've done in the professional level. I think a lot of there's a reason that most of my senior classes is playing professionally. That was always the goal for all of us. So we always kind of try to handle ourselves like we were already professionals in our time at Stanford. Obviously with other commitments, but soccer was always the number one focus. But just the type of training that you're able to do when you don't have to worry about playing 2 or 3 games a week is different. You can do higher intensity, higher impact stuff on a day-to-day basis. And that's allowed me to develop a lot, with things like distribution, being able to strike the ball every day without having to worry about, is my goal going to be okay for the game? Because I took 20 goal kicks this game, that kind of thing. So that's been a nice change for me that I've noticed. So
another question would be, if you could describe Coach Gerson Echeverry in what word, what would it be?
Coach Gerson in one word. That is a great question. Let me think. I'd say effective. You know, he's a very effective coach. He when we do video and that kind of thing, you know, he boils down the main points and he hammers those home. So he's going to make sure that everyone in the room understands what he's trying to say, what he's trying to get across to us, and then the training sessions are tailored to those main points. You know, and he does so in a difficult situation where some of the guys don't speak the same language. You know, and he can go back and forth between English and Spanish with no problem. And I think that's pretty, a pretty special coaching capability to be able to do that for people in the same room that can't communicate that well. And, you know, we've done a good job of learning to communicate with each other as well. But I think a lot of that comes from the coaching staff and Jerson in particular.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we've seen. You know, this ability to turn these, I guess you can say, these two different subcultures between like the English speaking players and the Spanish speaking players, and we're able to mold this into one cohesive unit. You know, is pretty incredible, and was going to a lot of people here from Houston. You know, we're kind of iffy how that was going to work. But I think Jerson Echeverry has done a tremendous job with that, and I know there's still a lot of season to go. But it's exciting. Yeah. It's exciting to see this major improvement. So now to fast forward to last weekend, you know. So in the one of the questions that was given to us by Jacob, in fact, was so in the San Antonio game, in the South Texas Derby, how did you feel that your backline did, and what improvements could still be made in order for this game against Swope Park?
Yeah, I think if you look at it, you know, we watched. I usually watch the film right after the game because I always can't really sleep after games because of the adrenaline. So I like to watch the game, kind of get a better idea of how it really went. Because sometimes on the field, you know, you see things that you can't see on film, but on film you see a lot of things that you miss on the field. So it's important to watch that. I think after watching the game, I felt like it was one of our most solid performances as a back line. I think, you know, we really didn't give them any clear chances. I think probably their best chance was at the end of the first half when they had that dinked ball over the top into the box that the forward brought down well, and then Kyle came across and got a nice block on it, and I ended up being able to collect it pretty easy. I feel like that was probably their best chance of the game, and it's one that we deal with well. Again, it's just a good ball that you have to deal with, and we did so. So I think the difference is we're communicating better and better with each other because there's some more consistency in who's playing where, you know. I think Todd and Nico do a great job of screening the back four in front of us so that, you know, you can take care of your job better because you don't have to worry about, you know, extra stuff going on in front of you. And then I think we won challenges at a higher rate than we had. I thought we did really well in the air, and I thought, you know, things like the one that Connor made towards the end of the second half when he, you know, had like a 30-yard sprint and chased down a tackle to break out the counter and end up tackling Jerson as well, which was very funny. But, you know, plays like that where it's just good hard-nosed defending, making a good play. We did that at a higher rate than we have. And I think as a result, I didn't have to do much, which is always the goal, you know. And so going forward, I think, you know, things that we need to keep improving on are denying crosses. I think it's pretty clear in the USL that's a pretty common attacking option for teams is to get that ball out wide and whip dangerous balls in because there's people that can really serve good crosses and good finishes that can make good runs in the box. So the more we can deny those crosses, the less defending will end up having to do in dangerous areas. So that's always a key point for us going into games is can we limit those kinds of dangerous balls that can make us uncomfortable. And then going forward, we want to, you know, increase the amount of balls like that we use to put the other team under pressure.
Definitely. So, kind of getting away from the whole soccer aspect. So far, what is your favorite thing to do in the Rio Grande Valley?
In the Rio Grande Valley. So I'm still looking forward to going to the South Padre Island because I haven't been able to yet. Because we haven't had any time off where I'm able to do that. But I've heard we might in a couple months or so, I have the time to do so. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't explored too much, but the thing I do is, go out and try out the different restaurants around. That's been fun. All the guys on the team, most of the guys on the team are pretty new to the area, so we try to just go out and find spots to eat that we like, which is always fun. Mm-hmm. And then day to day, one of the things that I've been doing a lot is playing board games with some of the guys on the team, kind of building those relationships in the apartments, which is always fun because we all live in the same apartments together, mm-hmm. Which is great for team bonding and unity. We're always around each other, which is great. So I'm playing board games like Catan, playing cards, that kind of stuff. That's been the highlight for me, socially and that kind of thing, where we've been able to get to know each other and compete a little bit and, kind of keep score and that kind of stuff, which is always fun.
Yeah, definitely that bond, that continuous bond between the players has, mm-hmm. been very effective so far. So what about FIFA 18? Do you got any guys playing FIFA?
Yeah, we got some guys playing FIFA for sure. But to be honest with you, right now everyone's playing Fortnite. All the gamers, that's what they're into. And we got plenty of guys on the team who are playing that as well, which is fun. I have it and play it sometimes, but not as much as some of the other guys. Mm-hmm. And that's a fun one too, because unlike some video games where it's kind of just you staying at the computer, that kind of thing, staying inside, that kind of game, you're playing in squads, you're playing with teammates online, so you're talking to them. So it's a cool way to stay in touch with guys from college, that kind of stuff. So that's a fun thing that some of the guys on the team do as well, which is always good.
That's perfect. I'm trying to get into Fortnite as well. My sister's the one that's like, she plays PUBG. It's like, okay, I want to try Fortnite to kind of get used to that because I've always been more of a FIFA and the GTA 5. So continuing on, do you have any piece of advice for any upcoming goalkeepers, any kids that want to become goalkeepers?
Oh man, I have a bunch of advice. I'm just gonna go back and tell myself a bunch of stuff at this point, but I think that the number one skill that is going to make the difference for young goalies hoping to make it, and that's not to say that I've made it. Obviously, I've a long way to go until I can say that. But to get to a position where you're playing in college or academy, even before that, or club, even the big clubs around wherever you're growing up, I think the biggest thing is resilience. That's the biggest skill that you want to develop, and that's not one that there's Instagram videos to teach you how to do. There's no articles that are going to explain to you exactly what you need to do to kind of build that skill, but to be able to deal with adversity and setbacks and success too, I think is the most important thing. I think there's a lot of goalies that get cut or don't make teams during tryouts to end up being fantastic goalies. And I think there's a lot of goalies that have a lot of success early on that don't have the resilience to deal with that success and keep pushing and keep growing. So I think the biggest thing that you can do as a goalkeeper is just keep going no matter what and find ways to improve. There's no, one way to get better and to become successful. It's just having that resilience to find all those different ways is really the biggest thing. Because I know, like, personally, I never got a sniff of national team or ODP or anything like that, and I didn't get recruited to any schools other than Stanford. That was the only school that recruited me to go to college and play collegiately, and it was pretty late in the recruiting process too. So, it's just about staying resilient and pushing no matter what happens, and just knowing what your goals are and doing whatever you have to do to make those become a reality.
Definitely. So thank you, Nico, for taking your time, from your busy schedule to be on the show and get the fans to know a little bit more about you. But before you go, I want to put you on the spotlight. So we know that the UEFA Champions League is next Saturday. Mm-hmm. My question is, Real Madrid or Liverpool, and what score?
Oh man. Well, what I want to happen is Liverpool. I want Liverpool to win just because I think, and that's nothing against Real Madrid, mm-hmm. But I just think that's a great story, kind of the underdog story right now. And how can you root against Mo Salah right now? It's just not possible. But what will happen? I think 2-1 Real Madrid. I think they're too savvy. I think that would be 3 in a row, right? If
Yes.
they did it.
Yes.
I mean, as someone who just did it 3 times in a row, you kind of got to root for that as well. So
So do you think
I think 2-1.
And do you think it'll be in regulation, or will it go to extra?
It could go to extra time for sure. It could go to extra time. I just think. I mean, yeah, it could be extra time with another Sergio Ramos late header to win it, something like that. I could see that.
Yeah.
And it could be, and I would honestly see Liverpool dominating and getting the majority of the chances. And it could come down to what kind of game Navas has.
Yeah, definitely.
It'll be, regardless, I hate predicting scores because I just want a good game, but it's going to be great. I think it's going to be super exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it as well as a Real Madrid fan. But anyways, once again, man, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck on Saturday against Swope Park Rangers. Hope to see you there, and hope we are able to get another win.
I appreciate that. I agree. Hopefully we get another win, and I want to thank you for having me on the show and for all the work that you do covering the team and supporting the organization. I think it's very valuable, and we really appreciate everything that you do for us. So looking forward to speaking with you more.
Yeah, definitely. Just we'll keep in touch, and you're always welcome to be back on the show, man.
All right, I appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Enjoy your evening.
You too.
All right, guys. So that was our RGV goalkeeper, Nico Corti, an exclusive interview on Down in the Valley. So we're going to go on break because the dog is kind of being weird right now. But when we come back, we will continue to talk more about the San Antonio game, the South Texas Derby, as well as we'll be talking about, like we mentioned, the game against Swope Park Rangers. And so don't go away just yet. We'll be back in a little bit.
All right, sounds good.
Ignition.
All right, guys, welcome back to the second hour of Down in the Valley. Hope you guys enjoyed the interview we had with Nico Corti. So now we're back and we're going to continue going on what we were talking about with the San Antonio match. So we don't have we're not going to go over the highlights today due to some time constraints that we had. However, like we mentioned, a couple of things that we kind of want to touch up on if y'all have not watched the pregame show. And one of the things I did want to talk about, obviously, is the fact that during the week, you saw Jose Escalante kind of trying to I don't want to say pick a fight, but more along the lines of trying to gloat and make himself look good in front of the San Antonio fans. So we know that Kyle Murphy was signed by the San Antonio FC. And so right after that, Escalante was like, "Oh, welcome to the best team and the best team in Texas with the best fans and things like that." And it just erupted into a small scale Twitter war between Escalante and some RGVFC fans. Jacob, I'm pretty sure you saw a couple of those tweets.
Yeah, for sure. I did see a couple of those tweets, and it's classic. It's just a classic, rivalry thing, especially to do. Jose Escalante, not only, of course, we do look back at also Houston and how, they were able to basically just let the guy go as well. And so that was a bit frustrating in its own because, as we've talked about before, why is Houston Dynamo, letting all these players go when they had talent in the RGV, but then bringing them up. And so then Jose Escalante, of course, being just still a young adult, being inexperienced with this stuff, just decides, let me start something. Let me show San Antonio FC fans that I can start basically some beef. And he obviously went after that and said the things that he said. And then RGVFC fans, being our fans, they stood up and said, obviously, the things that they said, and boom, right there, rivalry week started.
Honestly, to be fair, I am kind of glad that this was started because I had seen a lot of comments from San Antonio FC fans saying that they were hopeful for Austin to get their USL team if they don't get their MLS team because they wanted to create the rivalry there, and they also wanted to do something with El Paso because they felt that the RGV rivalry was too stale or things like that, and this just pretty much freshened up this rivalry, to the point where we were talking about stats, making memes, all this good old-fashioned banter between both supporters. It was pleasing to see. And what was more pleasing to see for me was the fact that, if I recall correctly, nothing was personal. There were no personal attacks. It was just good old friendly banter.
Yeah, that's true. It was just some good old friendly banter, and it also reminds me of how the FC Frisco and Houston Dynamo rivalry is, because for a while there it was stale, in my opinion. Houston Dynamo had a bigger rivalry with SKC, and so when that happened, FC Frisco just had to shake things up, and I believe it was last year or either not last year, but the year before, that FC Frisco had to say the Houston Dynamo supporters were being really rowdy. They weren't listening to everything, and they're banned for 5 years from bringing their drums and banners and things like that. And so then guess what? That sparked up a new rivalry, and that's just basically what had happened here. We needed this little refresher to say, look, this is how the stats have been. and we're gonna beat you guys basically.
Yeah, I honestly, like I said, I'm glad because for a while, like you say, Houston, because of all those rivalries, all those games in finals, conference finals, and when we in the MLS playoffs, that sparked a rivalry with Swope. I'm not Swope, Sporting Kansas City, and we pretty much got left Frisco relegated to, and in this case, I figure that the problem is going back is that it hurts to say this, but the San Antonio fan base is much more rabid in a larger scale about their team than the RGVFC fan base. Because if you look closely, most of the people who participated in this banter against Escalante were members of the Stampede and the occasional, Houston Dynamo followers, whereas with San Antonio, you see a lot more variety of people that participated, trying to troll the Down in the Valley account or trying to troll the RGVFC Facebook, account, or even the USL fans Facebook page, So hopefully, these rivalry heating up and the Toros doing better will ignite more people to be more passionate about their team and defending them from rival banter. And it's pretty interesting. Going back to the point that I was making, that San Antonio said that the rivalry is dying. Yet when it matters the most on the field, RGVFC has been more victorious against San Antonio. We went over the stats. It's 4 wins for RGV and only 2 against San Antonio, and both of them were in last season where we weren't doing that great. And it's interesting because they brought up the point of, we've won the only game at that time. We've won the only game in HB Park, so obviously we're the ones that control. Yet we've beat them twice in their own field. So what does that mean? Obviously, that RGV has just been proved for the more consistently been a better team compared to San Antonio.
For sure, yeah. It's just that comparison right there, and you also brought up a good point that San Antonio FC, they've got a better fan base in a way that's more rapid. Guess what? They've been a team for a longer time. Sure, it hasn't been technically San Antonio FC, but it was still like the San Antonio Scorpions, and they were part of maybe the NASL or USL. Not entirely sure on that, but
NASL.
And yeah, exactly. And so when you have a longer fan base than that, you get more people. When you have, consistently good seasons where you're making the playoffs, you get more fans. And so that's what San Antonio FC has over RGVFC. And it will just take a bit of time for that rivalry, to grow into a bigger one. San Antonio FC, guess what? If they want to start another rivalry with El Paso or even Austin, it's still going to take time for those rivalries to grow because they will still have that same problem. So, in a sense, it just, right now, it just needs to grow, and it will be a much more fierce battle where, obviously, we will have more fans from RGVFC starting to join in on those friendly banters.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting to point out, continuing on with this conversation, is like for so many years or for so many months, as long as this rivalry has started, they always say, RGV sucks, blah blah blah, and yet they've taken 2 ex-RGV players in the name of Escalante and now Kyle Murphy, plus they've also taken a homegrown talent in the name of Mikey Lopez from Mission, Texas. So, which is it, San Antonio fans? Does the RGV suck? Or are we so good so far as a region that you're trying to get our players in order to try to compete against us. Mic drop.
Yeah, and you hit it perfectly right there. They've stolen, obviously, Escalante. They've stolen Kyle Murphy, and then they've stole the guy from Mission. And so, since obviously, we talked about it before, too, RGVFC, they have the perfect scheme in a way. You're really close to, where is it, Mexico? And in that section, you have a lot of people that love to play soccer, that are passionate about this, that are looking to have an opportunity, not just in Liga MX, but an opportunity to play professional soccer. And if they can start up in, the RGV area, that is perfect, because guess what? That's United States soccer, and that's mainly where it can take you to grow your game. And so right there, that's a great pull. And it's like a recruiting battle, even in soccer, in college soccer, and in especially college football. If you have this great pull, why aren't you going for it? And that's why San Antonio FC has picked up those players.
Yeah, it's more along the lines of what have we let go than actually, the fact that they took him away from us. They decided, maybe they're not good enough when they actually are. And guess what? San Antonio's just waiting there to pick up on our scraps, pretty much. So we'll go ahead and leave San Antonio alone, because I think we've pretty much burned them too much. Enough for today. Hold on. Just 1 minute. Yeah, go ahead and call in again. Sorry, guys. All right, so it looks like Ray is calling in, but I've been having a little bit of problem with Skype right now. So we'll be talking about in a little bit about Swope Park Rangers. So let's kind of tease in a little bit, Jacob. So Swope Park Rangers have been doing well this season so far. All right, let's go ahead and hold on. I don't know what's wrong with Skype, where it's not allowing me to, like, I'm pressing the look, Ray, if you can see, like I'm pressing the answer button, and it won't let me answer. So I'll go. Hold on. Sometimes I hate technology. Sorry about that. All right. So like I was mentioning, RGVFC have been, or not RGVFC, Swope Park Rangers have been doing well. I guess pretty much like their counterpart. They're in their first team. So overall, they are at 4 wins, 2 losses, and 3 ties. Away, there are 2-2-2. Away, they have played against Reno 1868. They won 3-4 over there. And then they also visited Las Vegas Lights, where they lost to Las Vegas 2-1. Visited San Antonio, where they tied 1-1. Visited Phoenix Rising, where they tied 2-2. And then they visited OKC Energy, who's not really doing well right now. And they won by the minimum score of 1-0. And so their next away game is going to be against RGVFC. So how does that translate into the standings? Is that in the Western Conference, Swope Park... All right, please let it work now. All right, I think finally it worked. I had to pretty much close out the program, so it'll let me answer. So Ray, how are you doing, man?
Hey, good evening, Edson. How are you, sir?
Real good, real good. Struggling with technology, pretty much. So,
Boy, isn't that a first class problem?
well, I mean, you know what they say. And you know what the worst part is like it's been it's been consistent because we struggled on Saturday. We were struggling for a little bit while Nico was on the line, but thankfully we were able to get a lot of good tidbits out of that interview. Were you able to listen to it?
Yeah, I listened to the bits and pieces of it. Been doing some work on the outside before I can finally chime in.
Callo, you pretty much missed the interview with Nico Corti, but don't worry, we'll have the podcast version uploaded hopefully by tonight. So be sure to check out SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Store, and iTunes. But Google, all those platforms except for SoundCloud will probably be until tomorrow, but SoundCloud for sure will be available by tonight. So, Ray, what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts on the San Antonio match?
Restrepo plus 10, I guess.
That's a simple way to put it.
If anything else, I mean, I mentioned it during the show on Saturday. Our number one key was to pepper him with shots and pepper him often. Let's give this guy goalie of the week honors. Why not?
Well, he
sure
did
enough,
actually.
we gave it to him on a silver platter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he won. He made it to the team of the week, if I'm not mistaken, because of that. But I think for the most part, RGV played well. It's just when you're going up again, like I mentioned in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said in the beginning, when you're going up against the wall like Restrepo, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, I mean, final third just needs a little bit more work, a little bit more cohesiveness, and we should be fine. I mean, now that we've started to get that back line gelled out together and whatnot, now just trying to put that full 90-minute show, like they did against Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see something like that displayed. However, just be a little bit more offensive and not wait out on the opponent until they wear out, and maybe put in a nice, a fresh pair of legs to beat them down the lines and stuff like that.
Well, I think to be honest, RGVFC came out guns blazing, and you see the stats where for the most part in the first half. It was a constant RGVFC attack. I mean, I saw, worried faces on the San Antonio supporters that made the trip over there. And so, I think they started well, but then during halftime, San Antonio made some minor adjustments. I guess they kind of got themselves together. And that's where you started seeing San Antonio kind of controlling more of the game. You started seeing them not necessarily putting in a lot of danger onto Nico Corti, but they were able to get themselves more often outside the box, where players like Escalante and Gordon would see themselves getting fouled, with some soft calls as well. But they were getting a lot of free kicks from right outside the box. And I know a couple of times you were like, "Well, this is going to be very dangerous."
Yeah, and it's just again, it's just maybe a tendency that I've seen, and maybe I'm starting to pick up a little bit more that in the final third, when they kind of give up that cheap foul leads to a set piece opportunity. That's just the thing that worries me the most, is that you give up that foul, you give up that set piece opportunity, and it's just those clear opportunities that they need to eliminate. Now, as far as going to the offensive third, okay, fine, yes, we peppered Restrepo. Maybe we weren't cynical, but now is the time to just work on it a little bit more on the training ground type of thing, and hopefully against Swope Park Rangers we're able to come out with the positive result that we want. Now here's just hoping that a Sporting KC doesn't blown out like an entire starting 11 like they did last year for a certain game. And I think they ended up losing that one game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I remember because it was, I think we won 2-0, if I'm not mistaken, and it was like mostly Jacob. I'm sure you remember that one where Swope Park had most of Sporting Kansas City's starting lineup and bench players, and they still lost against RGVFC, who, if I'm not mistaken, did not have any or maybe just one player loaned down from the Dynamo. One of the things that kind of well, I was laughing about that is because late in the game, if I'm not mistaken, Sporting Kansas or Swope Park Rangers had a penalty again, in favor, and the player who took it was none other than Pablo Nagamura, an ex-Tigre player, and was saved by the goalkeeper. If I'm not mistaken, that was back in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And so that means that Callum Irving was still as RGVFC's goalkeeper.
Yeah, and you're right. I do recall that. And they even did that at some point last season as well, and it kind of backfired. And now most of those fringe players aren't even with Sporting Kansas City anymore. I believe a couple of them are with Sacramento. A couple of other are with, most of those bench players are now scattered across the league. Mm-hmm. And now they have like a brand new bench system for Swope Park Rangers and whatnot. So hopefully if they're able to come away with 3 points Saturday night, hopefully we're talking another positive result, another dire draw, and hopefully we can come away with it.
So, yeah, I really hope so. So now that we've made a transition to the game against Swope Park Rangers, and kind of take advantage that all three of us are here, wish we could have Cesar as well. But I'll go ahead and go with you first, Jacob. What are your keys to the game against Swope?
Keys to the game. Let's see here. The keys to the game for sure. One is the offense. And what I mean by that is they just have to, from the start, control the game. And if they're able to basically control that game from that kickoff, maybe, get those extra shots on goal, most likely one of those will fall in. I did talk about that earlier, but I think that may be key for Saturday night, if they can get some extra shots and just make sure to be careful. Another would be, for sure, the defense. When they're on defense, hopefully they don't, feel that pressure of being pinned back constantly and not, just being able to stop Swope Park from basically getting down to where the goalkeeper has to be the last line of defense. And if they can do that, I think that'll be good. And then the last one, obviously, is the mental relapses. They just have to stay focused. As long as they stay focused, especially in that last line of defense, where, if the man who has made some errors on the road doesn't make those errors and plays like he did on Saturday, I think this team will come out with a win for sure.
All right. Those are really good keys. Ray, what are yours?
Yes, I just say we gotta repeat the same performance that we did against San Antonio, except that we gotta hopefully get a rebound or two to go our way. Maybe find somebody behind us that can put the ball behind the net. Obviously, another thing to clean up is those cheap fouls when they're being pressed against the counter. Not to give up those cheap fouls that will lead to set piece opportunities. I feel like we've been lucky in that defensive end that we haven't given up those set pieces goal within the last 2-3 games. Mm-hmm. I would like to continue to see that trend of holding the shutout streak for Corti, and hope that we can come away with 3 points. If it's a minimum 1-0 win at the very last second, que suceda la tragedia, I will gladly take it.
Yeah, I think that'd be really, really. I'm trying to remember the think of the word, but it's gonna put pretty much the fans like at the edge of their seats. Make like getting that win. Just like, for example, it was in some way or another the Orange County game, because yes, we were winning 1-0, but everybody's like, okay, are they going to have like a mental relapse? Are they going to make one mistake that's going to cost us the win, like it had been against Sacramento and against St. Louis? And then in stoppage time, Aldo Quintanilla with that wonderful goal, against Orange County, and everybody's like, whew, now we can kind of breathe a sigh of relief. And in this game, I just hope a little bit more of the same, where we get the win, but it's in such a cardiac way that people will just cherish and, man, I'm getting hungry. Savor that moment, and that so to hopefully get more fans to enjoy the game for the most part, not only because of the result but the way how RGV was able to get the result.
Well, hey, let's just give a nice courtesy plug to our friends over at HEB Park. Another $2 special before the game starts. What else could go wrong? $1 nachos, $2 drinks. Can't beat it.
Yeah, and honestly, guys, go. Tickets are $5 to this game.
And let's not also forget, just because I'm an alum from there, or it's also going to be PSJ ISD night. Yes, shameless plug. I'll have quite a few friends out there.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll be able to run into them right as I'm going to go get post-game interview material.
Yeah, no, definitely. Go out, enjoy, have yourself some beers, or if you're not a drinker, there's always liquor. Or if you don't drink alcohol at all, there's sodas. They're decent. The food is decently priced. You get your money's worth, because the burgers are from Fuddruckers. The chicken tenders are good as well. Before the game, like Ray mentioned, $2 beers, nachos. And it's a good tacos. It's a good time. It's a good time for your family. To go out with the friends and watch some professional soccer, because in the end, even though it's D2, it's professional soccer. And best part of it all, it's our team. It's our Rio Grande Valley team. And I believe that they've done what it takes for us to be proud of, saying, hey, you know what? These players that are out on the pitch, they are representing RGVFC like they should. Even when they're down, they never give up, and we've seen that many times. We saw that against Fresno, coming back from these mental mistakes. Not every team is able to do it, and RGVFC does that. So I'm proud to have these players on my roster. So we can go ahead and analyze Swope Park a little bit further before we kind of end this RGV aspect of this show. So, like I mentioned, their overall record is 2-4-3. So far in the standings, I believe they're kind of like they are in the middle of the playoff spots, and the players that we really have to take care of. So we have it's interesting. So I was talking about Pablo Nagamura when he missed that penalty. He's the coach. I did not realize that Pablo Nagamura is the head coach of Swope Park Rangers. So stat leaders for Swope Park Rangers so far this season, we do have Carlton Belmar, 7 appearances with 8 goals, followed in second place.
Yeah, Belmar is the one guy you got to keep an eye on. He has been one of those guys that's been on and off with Sporting KC, and now I think he's found his rhythm for Swope Park Rangers. Go on.
And then followed in second with Haji Berry with 9 appearances and 3 goals. However, Berry is the leading assister with 4 assists. for Swope Park Rangers, followed by Colton Storm with 2 assists. As far as shots, no surprise that Carlton Belmar has made 16 shots, and combined with the fact that he has scored 8 goals, you're talking about an efficiency of 50%.
Yeah, he's the one guy that, you're going to have to pay special attention to out on the pitch. Mark him, keep him tight, make him feel uncomfortable. Just don't commit the silly foul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that we did see, where they pretty much put themselves at a disadvantage to the attacker, and they have no choice, or they think that they have no choice but to foul them, but they end up conceding these fouls in very dangerous spots. So as far as clean sheets, they've only had 2. They're both, and each goalkeeper, Darren McLeod and Adrian Sendejas, both have 1 clean sheet apiece.
Sendejas just happens to be one of those fringe Sporting KC guys. In case their backup keeper goes down or their starter goes down, he would be the first guy to be immediately called up upon. So I would not be surprised if we see Sendejas underneath the post or between the pipes.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be surprised.
So what are your thoughts, Jacob?
Yeah, exactly. Same deal. I would not be surprised. It's going to be interesting to see what, exactly. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what what Swope brings, especially. And yeah, it's going to be interesting.
So another interesting aspect that I kind of want to bring up about Swope Park Rangers is, so as far as the defense goes, they have conceded 15 goals so far this season, which you're talking about 1.7 goals per game. They have not conceded any penalties. Tackle success rate is at 73.2. And they've won 56.6% of aerial duels. Now, in comparison, RGVFC stats in those same parameters are, I swear, with this USL page. All right, so we have played 9 games. We have conceded 13 goals. So we have a better defense than Swope Park Rangers so far. And a lot of those goals, like we've talked about many times, have been mental mistakes by our end. So 3 clean sheets and 3 conceded penalties. That is another thing that we have to take care of. Make sure and go.
That's what I mean by silly challenges.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot afford to give up those set piece opportunities that either allow a penalty or even given a free kick goal. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean by the silly penalties.
Yeah, definitely. So, guys who are watching right now the live stream, be sure to share it with your friends. Be sure to leave a like, and go ahead and you can always participate in the chat if you guys want an soccer related topic you guys want us to talk about for the end of the show, because we still got 23 minutes till the end, and we're pretty much wrapping up the RGVFC portion of it. So having gone through these stats by Swope Park Rangers, the fact that they have only won twice on the road, they lost twice and tied twice. RGVFC at home hasn't been that great, obviously, going back to those mental lapses where we've only won once, and pretty much the rest of them the games have been ties. But independent of that, do you see RGV coming away with the 3 points?
I wouldn't be surprised with yet another draw. But then again, I mean, they have been playing so well these last 3 home games that I think they're due for 3 points at home.
Mm-hmm. Jacob?
Well, yeah, same here, because, I mean, 3 points is key for them to get, especially at home. And against a tough Swope Park team that will most likely give it their all, it's going to be interesting because of the fact that, well, yeah, they've been playing fantastically, and like I even said for the Keys, as long as they can get out to a good start and have more shots on goal, they can come out of here with a victory because they are more than capable of doing it. I mean, we heard Jerson Echeverry say almost the exact same thing. Todd Wharton and both of them were saying we're on track for these 3 points. We just need to play a bit better. We just need to actually, go in and score goals. So they're capable, and I believe that they can come away with 3 points.
Do you want to add anything, Ray?
No, I mean, it's just that, hey, look, I mean, the team is, I believe the team is just getting better. I just think they just got to be more clinical in the final third offensively. Sadly, it hasn't been there for our last 3 home games, but I just feel that the team is just due for one.
Mm-hmm.
They're due for some home goals and get the crowd involved into the game.
Yeah, and that's hopefully that's exactly what happens. So we are going to be there on Saturday. I highly doubt that we'll have a live stream like we did again last Saturday, but we will be doing like we've always done, live tweeting through Ray's Twitter handle, which is at cardpicker86. So I will be also doing a little bit of my own opinions on the Down in the Valley Twitter account. So be sure to follow us. You can also follow Jacob at Jake. Go ahead and remind me. Is it Jacob Young 99?
Well, that would be every other one except for Twitter. Jacob Young 456 would be my Twitter handle.
All right, so I got it switched up. But yeah, so be sure guys who are listening to us right now, if you guys want to be up to date on what's going on in this Swope Park Rangers versus RGVFC game, be sure to follow us and be sure to interact with us during the game. Tweet at us. Do you agree with what we're talking about? Do you not agree with what we're talking about? Do you just want to troll? I'm fine with trolling. I'm not sure about the other guys, but honestly, just be sure to follow us. We'll try to give you as much information as possible live from HEB Park. So
be nice about the trolling. That's all I'm going to say. Be nice.
So, all right.
And I don't think there's any kindness when it comes to trolling.
Well, it kind of depends how far you want to take it. But so guys, what is going to be your predictions for this game? Let's start with regular predictions, and then we'll continue with tradition with bold predictions. Ray.
I say we take this one 2-1, and yes, there will be a tragedy at the end of the game, and we score the game winner. That's normal.
What about your bold?
Bold prediction that we come out firing on all cylinders and come away with a 4-0 victory.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Jacob?
Yeah, okay. So my normal prediction is I think we'll come away with a 2-0 victory. I think the goalkeeper for Swope Park will make a couple of mistakes to allow, 2 goals to go into the back of the net. And yeah, we come away with a 2-0 victory. Everything pretty much regular, and we're firing on all cylinders as well.
And bold prediction?
And then my bold prediction would be this. I've seen us play against them a bit before, and there has been some, I guess I could call them sketchy moments, as in a lot of yellows almost. And so I say there will probably be 2 red cards, maybe from each team. I think we'll see maybe a 10-on-10 match, and both teams will score probably because, both teams will probably score a couple of goals each, and then right in the 95th minute, yes, there will be 6 minutes of added time, and right in the 95th minute, the Toros will take that 3-2 win.
3-2.
La tragedia, Edson.
All right. So
Ustedes son negativos, Willy González.
No. Centro al área, riega el remate, gol. Okay. All right. So my prediction would be that RGVFC comes with a win, and I'm going to say that it's going to be 1-0. Once again, in the dying moments of the game. My bold prediction will be that I actually had a bold prediction like already thought up, and then I just saw that Sporting Kansas City plays the following day in Minnesota, so that's not going to happen. But my bold prediction for that one is going to be that Bryce Marion will score the game-winning goal.
Man. Wow. He's going.
Yeah, that's a really good bold prediction.
Brother. Wow, he that guy's going for the fences, folks.
Yeah, pretty much, man. But that's what bold predictions are for. Hey, it's happened before. And Sean, his bold prediction was the 5-0 win against Toronto, and it came true. So it can happen. You never know.
That one.
Yeah, you never know.
I heard that one.
Yep, pretty much. So, all right, guys. So that's pretty much it for the RGV portion of the show. All right, so we have 15 minutes to pretty much talk whatever soccer.
Champions League.
All right.
Champions League.
Let's go ahead and touch upon that again. So, all right. Ray, what are your thoughts on this Champions League final?
Okay, I'm a Liverpool guy.
Mo
Salah has been like instant hero for me. I would like, this is where Jurgen Klopp really just scares me as a manager. The 2 finals that he has had, he's both lost them, but I think the 3rd time is the charm for Jurgen Klopp. I think Liverpool will pull this one out in extra time. I think Sadio Mane might be Liverpool's unsung hero, despite being outshined by Mohamed Salah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Liverpool takes this 2-1 in extra time. That's just my gut take with this. Real Madrid, what they've got going for them is that they've played these types of games before. Mm-hmm. They know what it is like to battle it out, go into extra time, and win these types of games. But I just feel that that Liverpool might get a little bit shell-shocked with that rampant offense that they have of this heavy metal type of football. You have your nice classic soccer, that they play beautiful, but I just think that Jurgen Klopp just brings out that Metallica, AC/DC type of
in your face kind of thing.
Rock-on type of football, that free-flowing football that I guess the modern game is now used to seeing. Mm-hmm. But that's my take on it. 2-1, Liverpool in extra time.
And Jacob, I believe the last time we talked about this, you mentioned that Liverpool was going to take it. Do you still stand by that?
I still stand by it. Of course, it kind of in a different sense. And why do I say that? Is because both teams, will travel to the final. It's at a neutral field, and so that's pretty nice because no true home advantage will really take place. It won't be, sold out with just a white crowd, and what I mean by that is, for the Blancos.
Yes.
And it won't be sold out with just red as well. So it's going to most likely be a lot of half and half, and so no one's really going to take advantage of that home crowd. That's pretty nice. And so I still see Liverpool taking it, and yeah, Mane I think is going to come away with something really special besides obviously Mohamed, being able to be that guy to make that last pass for Mane to put it in the back of the net.
Yeah. I mean, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
That's a lot. That's what pretty much a lot of the people that I've talked to and I've asked about the Champions League final. That has been pretty much the focal point of almost all of these people, is that they feel that Liverpool is because of how their offense has been in Champions League, that is going to take them, to winning the title from, I guess you can see, the favorite, which is Real Madrid, for the same reason that you're talking about, pretty much the seasoned team in these instances. It's no fluke that they've made their third, they're going for their third Champions League in a row, and have been consistently at the stage, for the last couple of years.
Well, they've been consistently at that stage for sure. But my obviously question is, can they put that last two legs behind them? And why do I say that? Is because they really didn't play Real Madrid soccer. In those last two legs, in my opinion, to get to that final, I felt like they were holding something back because constantly throughout that game, Bayern Munich had opportunity after opportunity to put the ball close to the back of the net, and then of course that didn't happen, and they gifted Real Madrid a lot of the goals that ended up happening. And when that happened, I just felt like in a way Liverpool looks like the better side at the moment, comparing them from those two games. Obviously they did play two different teams, but Roma, in my opinion too, was really matched up well with Bayern Munich. So
I just feel that Real Madrid, because they had to battle a lot of injuries, and I mentioned that before as well. And it was kind of those moments where they were going to try and play with the results. After all, they did get a win at Bayern Munich. So they were going to try and play the result. Now, against Juventus, it almost backfired on them. And against Bayern Munich, I feel that the same thing was going to happen to them had it not been for Keylor Navas. Now, keep this in mind. The Champions League final is a one-legged game, which means that Real Madrid is going to go all out. They're not going to stay back and see what the opposing team is going to do, which means that they're going to try to dictate the game for the most minutes. Try to get the goals needed to try to avoid Liverpool having the possession, especially your top three players out that are up in the top, which is Mane, Mohamed Salah, and Firmino. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's what Zinedine Zidane is going to try to model this game. Now, granted, If Liverpool gets an early goal, that is going to completely change the whole outcome of the game and the whole planning by Zinedine Zidane. At least that's the way I see it.
Yes, for sure. And it also brings back to my point with that last leg with Liverpool as well. I think I had spoken about it before the last time that we had talked about this, and I also feel like Liverpool was holding something back as well. They were wanting to play the result in the last leg. And so, it almost backfired for the team that was the favorite when they only ended up winning, I believe, 7-6 in aggregate.
Yes.
And now, of course, it is a one-legged final, and it's going to be interesting. Both teams are going to go all out. The question is, especially this one question, because I know how much of a hothead this player gets, which is Sergio Ramos. If that guy can keep his cool, I think Real Madrid has, a good shot of winning at the same time. That as long as both teams are able to keep their players, under cool and not make those dumb mistakes, dumb fouls where it puts them in jeopardy of getting sent off early in the game, I think we're looking at a good game, probably going into extra time.
That's another interesting aspect of it as well. And yes, Sergio Ramos does make those dumb fouls. Sometimes it gets him a yellow, and then later on in the game, he gets put in a predicament where he has to foul a player, and that's how he gets his second and gets sent off. So it will be interesting to see how that mental aspect plays out for both teams. So, Ray, you got anything else you want to talk about before we go?
The wing backs is also going to be a very important factor for Liverpool. Will they recover James Milner on time? And will Andy Robertson be the speed demon down the other side that they've truly had in form this past season? Those are going to be two of the biggest wild card factors. How Milner and Robertson can be linking up as the wing backs to be able to provide Mane, Firmino, and Salah that final ball in the final third to give them the best chance at breaking a deadlock. That's another of the key factors for this match. How often they come up on the attack.
Yeah, that definitely as well. And obviously, so based on whoever wins the UEFA Champions League, number one, they earn a spot in the UEFA Super Cup, in which Atletico Madrid is waiting for their opponent. They actually won today by the score of 3-0 in the final against Olympique Marseille. Granted, I was kind of disappointed by Marseille's showing in this game. They lost Payet due to injury, and other than that,
yeah, he touched the trophy. You don't do that.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people, it's just superstition, yada yada. But so many times it's happened. It's got to be more than just a coincidence. But
I agree.
It's like the day when you get married. You don't see your future wife until you actually get to the church.
Yeah, definitely. Jacob?
Yeah, it's the same deal for me. It's a big superstition. Yeah, you don't touch the trophy before you go in. It's the same reason why before every sports event that I go to that I'm rooting, for my team, I drink a Dr. Pepper. It's just my superstition. And sometimes, when I haven't drank a Dr. Pepper, my team loses. And when I do, my team wins. So, and it's happened multiple times. So sometimes I feel like it's not a coincidence. So, yeah, I see it's just not too smart, but we'll see what happens.
Interesting to point out of that game, just quickly before we sign off for the day. So two things out of that Atletico Madrid. Obviously, you have Antoine Griezmann, in which there's rumors that he's going to be leaving the Colchoneros. Is it going to be with Barcelona? Is it Real Madrid? The rumors state more clearly that it's probably heading over to Barcelona. There's now listening to the broadcast on Cope Radio of Madrid. Atletico Madrid is trying the best that they can to make sure that Griezmann stays. What do y'all think? Is he staying or will he leave?
I say there's a good chance he goes, and I think the one wild card factor that Atletico might also lose is Coque, who had himself a very, very productive game. I think Atletico, if they lose those two, Simeone goes as well. I mean, there's just no way that Diego Simeone can withstand to get his squad getting hampered like that in the transfer market.
Yeah, definitely. But it comes to a point whether you start seeing is Simeone's success the players, or is it the way he runs the players? Is it the talent? Is it the talent of the players themselves?
I think it's both. I mean, you got to have commitment from the player and commitment from the coach in order to get everything functioning, which is a pretty big reason why Atletico has been very, very successful over the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on the same way because of the fact that we've seen already Atletico losing one player, which would be Fernando Torres, and now they're probably going to lose more. This is, I think, a sign that we are going to see, Atletico Madrid slowly come down for a second, and obviously they'll need to pick up in the summer transfer window and try and get, these stars back, or at least try and get those stars to stay, because if they don't, they're going to be in a big hole.
Definitely. I mean, we see so many teams. I mean, take a look at Dortmund. I mean, they got to a point with Jurgen Klopp where they battled against the powerhouse of Germany, which is Bayern Munich, in Champions League, in winning the actual Bundesliga. Now it's gotten to a point where Bayern Munich has completely bought, most of their stars, Lewandowski, Götze, Jurgen Klopp leaving to Liverpool, where Dortmund is just not the same anymore because he lost those players that made Borussia, or those key pieces, I might say, that made Borussia Dortmund so good, those years. And I think it's just the state of modern football. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Dortmund just barely get into the Champions League, and now they're going to be facing a long overhaul with getting a new coach and probably having to sign some of these younger, better players from the smaller German teams in order to rebuild and hopefully try to compete with Bayern Munich once again in the Bundesliga.
Now, my question to you all, to both of y'all, because we're going to go ahead and wrap it up already. But this is a really good discussion. At what time is enough going to be enough, where Bayern Munich completely has a monopoly over the good players in the Bundesliga? At what time are the Bundesliga fans going to say enough that every year it's pretty much Bayern, and the real battle is to who's going to get second place? At what time or will it ever get to the point?
Well, this would be a topic for next week, but the same thing is going on in Italy and in Scotland, and also to some extent in Spain, because in Spain you got Barcelona, Real Madrid, in Scotland you got Celtic, and in Italy you've got Juventus. And then in Germany, you got Bayern Munich. So it's kind of difficult having to put financial fair play into play now, but I think it's just now up to the federation to try to do something about it.
And let's not forget France with Paris Saint-Germain. I mean, they've won how many?
Another team. Yeah, but then there was also a slight intermission where Monaco won the league as well.
Yeah, they've won. PSG has won so many French Cups in a row. They've won, also the actual League One as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, now I'm pretty much seeing the view like, okay, well, maybe the local league may be small or too small for them, that their focus is on the Champions League. Do you believe that might be the case in these teams, or like they're pretty much their main focus is try to win Champions League, since they know that their local league is going to be an easy win for them?
Yeah, I think so.
Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, look at all of these leagues that are having the same problem. And once again, when you got this French league, sure, it probably pays a lot when you win, but at the same time, Champions League is close to double that. So if, they have success there, maybe getting even to the semis or anywhere around that, they get paid a lot of money, almost maybe as much as them winning the French Cup. So it goes back and forth to that. And of course, they can pay a lot of money. They're much more financially stable than these other clubs, especially in France. And I mean, the same goes with Bayern Munich, who, go to the semis almost every single year in the Champions League with that monopoly. At one point, I think we need to, say, even from our American standpoint, put a salary cap on those leagues, make it, less of, make it harder for those big teams to stay that big, to, just have some change is what I'm saying there.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure the purists will throw a big fit over that request. But I think at the end, it's gotten to a point where a casual fan really cannot enjoy watching these leagues, because it's always the same winners. And so there's no, like, for example, in the EPL, you have the champion isn't always the same one every year. Plus, you have that thing where relegation is so tight. It all boils down almost pretty much to the last week where you find out who gets relegated. And so, it's some things that the fans, as more than anything, the people up on top who run these leagues need to work on or need to see. But in the end, it's obvious that money is going to win. So having said this, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Down in the Valley. Really appreciate you all for tuning in, not only on YouTube or while it was streaming, but also when this show goes live on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Store, and iTunes. Really appreciate y'all's support. Hope to see you all there on Saturday against Swope Park Rangers at HEB Park. Don't forget, guys, be sure to check out our friends on the Beautiful Game Network. Follow them on Twitter at the BGNFM. Check out their website at www.bgn.fm. While you're there, check out all the other USL podcasts like Sock Takes, the Speedway Soccer as well, and Play the Kids. Really, really high quality stuff. So be sure to check them out. Also, be sure to check out our friends at dynamotheory.com. Today, Carson Merck released the newest article of The Bull and Its Horns, which is a really good read. And also, Jacob will be posting live. Will be posting on our website down in the RGV.com. His article in regards to the San Antonio match. So be sure to read that when it goes live. Be sure to follow us on all our social media, whether it's Twitter at Down in the RGV. We also have Facebook Down in the RGV, Instagram RGVFC fans, as well as am I missing one? Obviously our YouTube and our Soundcloud. Check those out. So having said this, Jacob, Ray, thank you all so much for for being on today on this show. Hope to see you all again on Saturday over there at HB Park.
Definitely look forward to it. Good night.
Same here.
All right. Good night, Ray, and good night, Jacob, as well. Take care.
Take care.
All right. So before we kind of let this go to the end, piece of news for the Houston fans. As you all saw yesterday during the Houston Soccer Power Hour, the actual name was officially revealed yesterday. We will now be called the Generation Orange radio show. We go live. Sean and I go live for that show between every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Be sure to download the TuneIn app and listen on KTXF DB The Real on TuneIn and through the internet as well. Also, be sure to check out, like I said, Down in the Valley on the Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play Store, SoundCloud. And be sure, guys, I really, really implore you, beg you, go to the games. Go to HB Park. It's kind of sad to see so many empty seats in such a beautiful stadium. One of the things that Jose Escalante touched upon that in that little Twitter feud was that he was tired of playing in front of empty orange seats. I mean, I know it's gonna get some time to get used to this team to earn that love, but it's got to start somewhere. So guys, if you have the opportunity, tickets are not expensive. They're $5 each. The food's great. The atmosphere is great. Please go support the Toros. Support these players who are busting their you-know-whats off every game to try to get the best result possible. Things haven't really gone as good as maybe they thought so, but they are dying trying to get those wins. So just like they're busting their butts off on the field, I think they deserve for that effort to be reciprocated by the fans. So hope to see you all there on Saturday. And we are Toros, somos Toros. Y hashtag siempre fiel. Cuídense mucho, raza. A los que no en español, realmente les imploro, raza del Valle de Río Grande, vayan al estadio, apoyen a los Toros, por favor. Estos jugadores se han partido la mandarina cada juego desde que empezó la liga. Claro, los marcadores no han salido como uno pensaría. Los marcadores son engañosos porque se han partido las mandarinas. Han representado al Valle muy bien estos chamacos. Se han levantado de cosas negativas, de errores mentales que han tenido y se han levantado para conseguir el empate. Han estado abajo, por 3 goles o 2 goles y han sabido remontar. En casa falta la victoria, pero es muy importante tener el apoyo de la afición. Vayan, los boletos este sábado, $5. $5. ¿Qué son $5? Vayan al estadio, vean un buen fútbol y vean este equipo que está representando nuestra región, el Valle de Río Grande. O sea, realmente se los pido como de favor, vayan y apóyenlos. ¿Qué más? Tenemos gente local, jugadores locales. Víctor Garza pues está lesionado. Era algo que quise decir durante el show. Víctor Garza está fuera por unas cuantas semanas. Supongo que va a ser por toda la temporada. Tuvo creo que hubo un desgarre en la rodilla y lo van a operar. Entonces va a estar fuera por mucho tiempo. Pero también está Omar Ontiveros y Roberto Castellanos. Son jugadores que son de ahí del Valle. Apoyen a nuestro talento local. Apoyen a los Toros. Los vemos este sábado, raza. Si Dios quiere, cuídense mucho. Bye.
Allow me to show you something.